And good evening, everyone. ESS, Empire State Sports, proudly presents the Wise Guy Sports Talk Show. Our host for tonight, Joey Reel, and myself. Dave Bartlett has other duties tonight. He might join us, he might not. And our special guest tonight, Susan Reid. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you for having me.
And before I throw it over to Joey, you changed jobs on us recently. So
I did.
Yeah. So
thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, really. So
I was just a quick little, uneventful. All of a sudden, boom, it happened.
And you keep moving south, so maybe you'll get warmer down there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm going to throw it over to Joey, and we'll get this show going.
All right. So Sue, thanks a lot for coming on, and it's kind of strange because it's we're talking to a North Country person, but somebody that's got a connection now downstate. So and really close to the city now, right? So you're now working in the Rye School District, and
yes.
Is that in Yonkers? Is that what I saw?
No. So it's in Lower Westchester. It's near the Long Island Sound. It's part of Section 1. Section 1 is approximately almost 80 schools that range from Dutchess County in Poughkeepsie area, Arlington, all the way down to Yonkers, New Rochelle, and then that Sound Shore area, which is Mamaroneck, Rye, Rhinebeck, Blindbrook, in that area, Port Chester. White Plains are all right in that area. And then we also cover Putnam and northern Westchester, which is where I came from, Putnam, my previous school district, Carmel, and then across the river in Rockland County. So we're a really large geographic area in the section. So my commute is about 30 to 40 minutes south, straight down 684. So it's not a bad commute at all right now. And I've been going into my new job since July 1. Just a little different layout with everything going on, but things are going well.
Is that a AA school?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that area. Sorry about that. I lived in Poughkeepsie for 9 years, Poughkeepsie area, when I was stationed down there with the state. I actually started in Bedford Hills, which is right near White Plains area. So I know that area quite well, and that's quite a big region that you're covering.
Yes, it is. It is. It absolutely is. Rye is an A school, and a solid A school, like more at the top end of the BEDS numbers.
And what was Carmel?
Carmel was a AA. We were a smaller AA.
So you're going to bring Rye up and play Messina?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I believe I've been trying to meet so many people. So I've been focused. Whoops. Are you there still? Yep. I've been focused on meeting right now, like my teachers and my coaches and a lot of the community members. I have an entry plan I'm working on, and some of it's remote, some of it's in person. But I met our hockey coach. He stopped by for Rye, and Rye has played Messina in the past and has been to tournaments. And we had a nice discussion about, sport in general brings so many people together. I have so many great friends across the state now through my job and through athletics, and having that conversation with Peter Thomas, my hockey coach at Rye, it was funny, all the different connections and people we knew just through the sport of hockey. It was pretty cool.
Well, we'll give you a chance. Why don't we start with this, because it seems to come up with every show. So let's get the COVID stuff out of the way right now, so we can be positive stuff later.
Yes.
But obviously, it's got to be a brutal time to be switching jobs with everything that's going on. And obviously, you're not going to know much more than what I've been saying in previous shows. We're just sitting day by day by day. Now, obviously, you're in a brand new job, so
yeah.
You've really got some work that you can be doing and getting used to your new place. But I mean, you got to be sick of being in limbo, though. Really, I'm sick of it.
Yes, I feel obviously my heart is heavy for our students, and that's the hardest part right now. Is actually I'm doing all these things that I probably wouldn't have as much time to do. Meaning, getting to know the community a little bit more, spending time catching up on different things, and planning for a billion different models, it seems like, to just enter school academically. There's so many things that are up in the air about that, but not being able to get in to see the students. We were hopeful when phase 4 happened that open workouts would begin. And then obviously our governor decided to squash that. So we have not seen our kids since, obviously, like everybody else, since spring. And then being in a new position, I don't know the student athletes at Rye. I'm familiar with their sports teams, because when you're in a section, obviously you follow teams and teams emerge. And I'm the Section 1 football chair. So Rye was successful last year and had a great football season, not knowing I would be following that pathway. I was familiar with a few of the athletes just because of, being the chair. But overall, I don't know my student athletes, and that's my favorite part of the job. So I don't know what's going to happen. And again, as you said, day by day, it's hard to envision, because I'm a positive person, but it's hard to envision that it's going to happen when we can't figure out how or what school is going to look like. So, I know our New York State Public Task Force meets Thursday, and our local section task force has been collaborating as well. And we're hopeful that something will happen, whether, it's one of those 6 scenarios, many I didn't like, but, but that something will happen, because something needs to happen for our kids, whether it's local, or, a little bit bigger. It just depends, where it's headed, but we'll see.
Susan, are you in phase 4 down there?
So I live in Connecticut, that's in phase 4. And then in New York, yes, our lower area is. However, if you recall, phase 4 was to allow us to have open workouts on our school campuses. And then that was squashed. And so we're still waiting. The last guidance document, which I believe was, what's today? Thursday, I believe was, I can't recall on the Board of Regents met if it was Tuesday or Wednesday, but the Department of Health had put out a guidance as well that at this time, no interscholastic athletics via the Board of Regents. So that was a little disheartening if you saw Robert's tweet on that. So again, like Joey said, I feel like, okay, I wake up, what's going to happen next? What's going to be the next thing? And in my head, I have all these plans, the what ifs, and we really, they're all hypotheticals until we actually know.
Yeah, I mean, I go into the office every day to make it look like I'm, somewhat important, in that I don't know if you watch Seinfeld. There was an episode where George Costanza just left his car in the parking lot all the time. They thought he was a bulldog.
Yes.
That's pretty much. I put my car in the parking lot so people will drive by, think I'm actually there. I'm out taking a run or something. So.
There you go. That's great.
But that's what it's come to. I go there.
Yeah.
I go there every morning, going, I got nothing to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So,
yeah.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared for
anything, really.
anything, but it really does stink. And we know now, it's become obvious to me. There was a bit of hope that I would say, I was hoping that, we'll get a month and a half of notice and be able to prepare. It's now quite obvious to me. We're going to know this, and whatever they decide, and it's going to be a week. I'm going to have a week to get ready. You're going to have a week to get ready. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And for me, so August 6th and 7th, I think, is the final decision whether we're opening or not. And so that's late, obviously. And I just, from a low risk to a high risk sport, even looking at that, I just can't wrap my head around it. I'm thinking of the basic, not just the, transportation and everything that goes along with no spectators and all the things they've discussed. I keep going and drilling down a little bit deeper and thinking about, if I'm at Rye and my girls' tennis team goes to play a local school in Eastchester in tennis, and they play on a Tuesday, and they come back and they're in school Wednesday, Thursday, and on Friday we find out that a student athlete from the other team has COVID. What does that mean for us? And I can't imagine a superintendent or board of education that would allow a school to shut down academically due to an athletic event. So that's in my mind, and that's a low risk sport by definition. So I can't wrap my head around the bigger picture. So I do think, the task force is trying to look at everything and give us recommendations and guidance, but they are putting all this time in. But again, it's depends on what the governor and what the state ed delivers to us. So yeah, so I'm keeps trying to remain hopeful. And if we don't have something, that's the next thing, is like, what are we going to do for our kids? And that's where my mind goes into things like, just we're doing something locally, even within our district, if it's possible. But again, those percentages and those numbers about spiking that the governor put out, like, that's scary when you think about regions. If your region, your school could be at 0% and even surrounding schools, but if you hit that number, you shut down. That's kind of scary.
I don't know if both of you have, sorry about that, Joey. I don't know if both of you have seen, I'm sure you have, but somebody is trying to invent a football mask now that has a complete enclosed shield inside of it, so it wouldn't allow, I'm sure you both have seen that. But moving forward, as you planning for athletics is one thing. Planning for buying new equipment and upgrading equipment that you don't have is going to be astronomical. So how do you guys plan ahead for that? With the budget set, because people are killing their budgets now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I just said, and that's the thing, is when this first started, a lot of districts were putting in, I don't know they were almost like panels in the classrooms, and they were putting these up in the idea that they would be able to social distance. And then they were told that they did not meet fire code and had to take them all down after they invested money into that. So I'm worried about twofold. Number one, I'm not spending anything budgetarily until I know, because I have to be fiscally responsible to my district. I can't spend X amount of dollars and then, things change, which we've seen happen. And that's not just athletics, that's technology, that's all these different departments, curriculum, instruction, that they're ready to go. But, to spend money on something when you don't have it, and unfunded mandates, all these other issues that pop up, we really can't do that. We have to wait to that final answer. And then we all need what we need. Can you imagine supply and demand at that point?
Yeah. That's the one thing I've been debating is, am I supposed to go out and buy 3,000 masks? I don't know, because I don't know if I need them. I don't know if it's my requirement. Is it coming out of my budget? Am I the one handing them out at a game? We don't know any of these things.
No.
And Timmy Hayes is sitting up here with athletics waiting on pins and needles for me, because he's like, oh boy, I'm going to make a buck. But we can't order anything yet because I don't know what I need.
I know. I mean, there's so many pieces to that, definitely. And I think that to order stuff, like you were saying, like, just is tough to do right now until we know. And once we know, then we have to adjust and figure that out from there. But I can't imagine, like, I know a lot of districts, like our district at Reid is a BYOD, you're going device for technology. I can't imagine, like, the whole mask thing. I even thought deeper in that, like, if everyone brought their own mask, is that safe? Because then if they're bringing their own mask, are they washing them? Are they clean? Are they bringing germs in? Like, so there's just so many layers. And I'm thinking, can you imagine taking temperatures of people? Like, it's just, there's so many things that my mind just can't wrap around. But and it's late. It's very late right now for us to try to plan for August 24th. So, just keep pushing forward, I think, and trying to figure out in the back of our head what are our plans A, B, C, and D, and kind of go from there. But we'll work together as a state and as colleagues, and regionally and sectionally, hopefully, to do something for these kids.
Well, and you and I are lucky because we've been doing this long enough. We've never dealt with anything like this, but yeah. I would not want to be just coming into this job, just learning to become an AD right now, or a principal or a superintendent. I would want some experience in this job, because you're dealing with things that weren't part of the deal just 6 months ago when you were hoping to get this job, you know? So, experience will help you and I feel bad for that rookie
Yes.
who's coming in trying to, and you're kind of going through this. You're trying to meet your new coaches,
Yeah.
meet your new players, but
Right.
at least you have some background in the sports themselves and how things run. But I couldn't imagine. Yeah, I'm just starting out on my new job, and I got to deal with all this first. You know.
Right. Right. And then who knows, like if anything should return like closely to what we were pre-COVID, like that whole piece of what we're used to, they won't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be going through a year of whatever this looks like, and that's not going to look like the following year, hopefully. You know, we talk like this is a year thing, and let's hope that it's even seasonally or month or whatever. But, you know, we're talking about 2021, but I mean, who knows? I mean, the scenarios that they put out for the task force scared me a little bit because then I thought, oh, people are going to want to move things all over the place. I just couldn't see logistically some of those things happening because number one, you were forcing kids to make decisions between sports, and many of us have coaches, as you know, that coach more than one sport. So you would have a gap in coaching, which we already have,
Well,
and abilities. Like, oof.
yeah, and I'm obviously I'm assuming that the one that um, depressed you the most or worries me the most is the let's go low risk, medium risk, high risk, and all the high risk sports will be at the same time
Yep.
now I'm just thinking of myself, but my
Yep.
Class C size school is going to try to play girls and boys soccer, boys lacrosse, and boys football all at the same time on one turf field.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's not happening. And just like for what you said, I got coaches that are involved in all of those sports and players having to make a decision. I couldn't imagine being a boy this spring, having to pick between football, lacrosse, or soccer. That would be crazy.
Well, I worry in being the football chair with numbers always struggling in different sports, but specifically with football, like a C school, especially, you know, put lacrosse like St. Lawrence, especially that's had
Yeah.
both great programs and with football and lacrosse, those are your same athletes.
Yep.
Chances are you're not going to have one of those teams.
And I don't want to say it because somebody from St. Lawrence Central is going to see it. But if they aren't thinking this, if this scenario happens, I'm sorry, we won't have a football team this spring.
That's a lot of schools. That is down here. I mean, we have A schools in this area and AA schools that struggle to get numbers for JV, and the programs are trying to constantly work to keep that going. And those same kids are playing that, especially lacrosse. You know, they would have difficulty. So again, I know they were just scenarios and they were just looking for feedback, and they at least got us thinking outside of the box, right? That we need to be creative. So, you know, my hope would be is, of course, best case scenario, start on time. Worst case scenario, some type of modified version of our fall season. And if not, I know my third option, I guess, would be the 2-month, where it ran winter, fall, and spring, or something to that effect. I don't know if that's feasible, but that gives everyone the chance to participate in some form of their season, their sport, and we won't run into those other problems with some of those logistics. But again, we could decide that, and then they could say, nope, we're not starting anything till January 1st. You know, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So that's COVID.
All right, we got that out.
And that's going to be tough to try to squeeze everything in too. So, but.
Oh yeah. Well, and downstate here, we're a little bit fortunate. We start, you know, it's so funny growing up in Messina and not understanding, for example, why when we went, I remember when we went to softball states, I'm like, why did we only play like 16 games during the season? You know, I didn't understand that. I thought it was a lot when we played, but when I moved down here, and the maximum number of games at the time was 24 before they reduced it to 20, I thought, oh, how do you get these in? I mean, so I start looking at like those changing changes, like you said, Pete. Like if you were upstate New York, could you play fall sports in March and April? Yeah, I don't know. Like,
No.
the weather is so weather dependent.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's done. I've had enough of that. So.
Okay, me too.
That's enough depression.
It's
Yeah.
it's every night with this, but
I know.
we have to
What are
do
we
it.
doing? What are we
We have
doing?
so let's hear about you a little bit. Let's talk about the sports you played in school. Let's talk about college, because we got to talk about where you went to college, because we're pushing 40 shows here, and the Cortland Ithaca thing seems to come up a lot, and you're an Ithaca grad.
Yeah.
So we'll give you a chance to talk about
Another bummer.
the things that we'll talk about your pathway and how you got down to Rye. How's
Okay.
that sound?
It's very interesting. So obviously I graduated from Messina in 1991. Love my hometown. I had a great experience. Obviously I wouldn't be in the world I am right now without many of those people, including Martha Slack, who was my AD and my mentor. I played soccer at Messina. I played basketball and ice hockey, and I played softball. So when I left Messina, I went to Ithaca and played softball at Ithaca, and I graduated with a phys ed and health degree. And my first teaching job right out of school was for Bill Dunning at Rushton Moira. And I had a great experience there. Like 22 years old. I just think about this and it floors me. 22 years old, teaching health education to high school and middle school students. And I coached cross country. That was my first ever coaching job. I have no idea about, cross country, but I'll never forget. We went to states and I'm thinking I'm 22 years old on a school bus driving to Corning with these young ladies. And what am I doing? Like, I just think about now, like a 22-year-old doing that floors me. So I coached softball, and then we got soccer started there during my first 4 years. And then I had a great opportunity. JJ was at St. Lawrence as the principal, Joe Javenville, and there was a health opening at St. Lawrence Central. And so I moved closer toward home and spent a few years at St. Lawrence Central and coached there as well. Again, another great experience. Have great stories and great memories. I still keep in touch with a lot of these people that I've worked with as well and coached. And a lot of my former athletes, definitely, which is a lot of fun. And then kind of in the back of my head, my whole time was like, I wanted to be in Messina. That was my hometown. And I had that opportunity. It was a tough decision to make because I enjoyed St. Lawrence Central so much, but I definitely wanted to be in my hometown. So I taught health in Messina at the high school, and I coached soccer and softball. And throughout that pathway, I did my master's at SUNY Potsdam, and Holly Daniels, Holly Corba, was my principal at Brushton, and she had given me the idea that I should get my administrative degree, which I thought, for what? But I thought, I'm not married, I have no kids, why not? So I went to St. Lawrence University and got my degree with administration and had to do an internship. So luckily, Messina needed an assistant principal. And so Martha Slack's last year as assistant principal and AD, I got to work alongside of her, which was a treat. I have great stories. So then I had some decisions to make. So I'm about to land like my dream job growing up, athletic director at Messina, my hometown. And I met my husband and then had to make the decision, do I put everything in knowing I'm probably going to have to leave? He lived down here, and I made that decision to move down, which was now 16 years ago. That sounds crazy, but 16 years ago. And I landed a job at Haldane, which was a C school, small school, very talented athletic school for a small school. Our area makeup, we might have in a 5-sport classification down here I'm going to be off a little bit, but I think we might have 5 C schools, um, B schools, maybe in 5-sport classification might be 12 to 15. And then we might, in A, that's our biggest. It's anywhere between 26 and 30. And then double A is around 20, 22. So we're top heavy. We have no D schools, and in 5-sport classification. So Haldane was small. They had a lot of success while I was there, mainly in girls basketball. They won the states when I was there. Great experience. But I was also the assistant principal. So that was a little taxing. Like, to do both those jobs wasn't a challenge in the sense that I couldn't do them, but it was just hard to do both at the same time, no matter how big the school is. So I had an opportunity at Croton Harmon, which was a B school, a little bit bigger. They made a job administrative, and I stayed there before I ended in Carmel, where came full circle. My principal at Haldane hired me through the process at Carmel. He was the superintendent. So we got to work together for 5 years, had a great run there. And just recently, Rye's position opened up, and the timing just happened to fall into my lap. My superintendent was going to be retiring and ended up leaving Carmel, and we had a good relationship. And there was some transition going on. So when Rye opened, I was curious. They have a very successful athletic program and a great tradition. So I kind of, just, again, wasn't looked at the fit, called a lot of people, got a lot of advice, and went through that process virtually in about a 2-week period. Was offered the job on I think it was May 26th or 27th, and I was appointed at the board meeting and started July 1st. And so that's kind of where I ended up. So I ended up teaching for 10 years and coaching for 10 years, and now I've been administrator for 16. So this is my 26th year coming in. Crazy to think about, but here I am.
Hell of a road there. I know Joey sent me some information on you, and we were looking it up, and all of a sudden one night he says, check this out. So he sends me a screenshot, and you've completely changed schools. And I'm going, I said, I guess we're gonna have to change a few things, but not too bad. But you're right with you. I know Rye from playing hockey with my alma mater, which was Salmon River, and
Yep.
Salmon River has played Rye before.
Yes.
So that's my only contact with Rye, is knowing that my school actually played hockey with them.
Yep.
And I know where they were located. And like you said, very good sports down there, very good
Yes.
sports. So you must, I can't imagine you getting this job, getting excited to go to work, and then saying, well, I haven't met anybody yet. Seriously, I mean, you barely set foot in the door and set up your office, and yet you don't have anybody to coordinate things with. So I can't imagine what's going through your mind. Both of you guys, actually, I can't imagine what's going through your minds and all the scenarios that are going to happen. But it's got to be kind of overwhelming for you, especially. Joey's already been established, but you going into a new school, you got to have a lot of questions on your mind as well.
Well, there's a lot of logistics, definitely, that are different. Now, if you go to any school, obviously things run differently, and there's different process in place. So it's learning what they are. And sometimes you have time for that, and sometimes you don't. So I'm fortunate at Rye right now. We've been working in our office under the guidelines, obviously, and construction's going on. Our turf field is being redone right now as we speak at Rye. I have a wonderful secretary and an assistant athletic director that support me, and everything, like from a scheduling standpoint's been done, budget's been done. The person who was previously there before me, Mike Arias, moved on to another position. He left me in great shape with transition. I mean, a ton of docs, ton of things for me to know. Besides a colleague, he's a friend. So that was really helpful. And now it's just going through that entry plan, like I said, and saying, okay, I have to meet with the recreation department, which I've done because we utilize their fields. All right, what does that mean? What do we need for building usage? What do we need for field usage? What does this look like? What's our security? Board of Ed approving coaches. What's the process for that? So all these like things that normally function like Joey knows at the back of his hand, or I would know if I was still at Carmel, I have to ask a lot of questions to find out answers because people do things differently in different districts. Things that may seem like not a big deal could be. So you kind of feel behind a little bit that way, but people aren't banging my door down during the day. So I'm able to get through those lists. Today I met with a community member that has a St. Lawrence University connection, and his son went to Ithaca. So he is a Harrison graduate, and the Rye Harrison, if you get a chance, look that up, is a rivalry with all sports, but primarily with football. It's a huge rivalry. It's exciting to hear about, and I was excited to participate in that. But again, I don't know if that will happen due to everything going on. But so I'm meeting a lot of people of interest, such as that, which is fun. But it makes me more like excited to want to start. And it's, where are the kids? Where are the kids? Where are the kids? So it's like we're in a shell. We're in a school functioning without people.
Yeah. Well, and then the other, since we're on the topic of this, it seems like, again, yeah, we were going to see each other in a couple of weeks, I'm sure.
I know.
For the NISFA Central Committee meetings and for Carl's
Yes.
induction to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's now been delayed for a year. And, I don't normally take part in the Central Committee stuff, but I'm not going to pass up a trip to Placid. So,
Yeah. We love
Katie and I were all prepared. We were excited because we're both really close with Carl, and it just stinks because I knew we would see you there.
Yes.
Along with everybody else in the state, and it just stinks, that we're not able to do that.
I know. It's, again, like I look so forward to seeing my colleagues and friends, and I'm very fortunate growing up in Section 10, knowing everybody. When we go to our state ADs conference, I'm so excited to see everybody because I haven't seen them in a while. I try to visit my mom as much as possible with my job. That sometimes makes it impossible. But I have a lot of friends around the state that are athletic directors that I haven't seen because of this, that traditionally we've seen in March at Saratoga and then at the Central Committee meeting. My friend from Buffalo today, when we were talking, I haven't seen her since last softball states because we were both working with softball, and that's abnormal for us. We usually see each other a couple times a year. So that part's been tough. I know I've been texting with a lot of my friends that are ADs in Rochester and Long Island, and I'm anxious to see everybody, but we don't know when that's going to be.
And that's the last time you and I bumped into each other was softball states last year because Coach Brown got our girls down there and
awesome.
bumped into each other in Glens Falls. So
yeah.
Obviously we missed out on the softball season, but still, will softball still be in your future with this position in Rye?
Well, nope. So I actually I took over for a gentleman by the name of Tony Toronto, who's a coach at Nanuet High School. He's a wonderful man. Todd Santa Barbara, who's now our executive director of Section 1, who's also an Ithaca grad, a good friend. We did softball together for about, I think we did that I think we did it for 6 years, maybe. I'm not quite sure, 6 or 7 years. And just 2 years ago, I took on football. So what I was finding, as much as I love doing both of them, is with softball and football being fall and spring, I was missing my own student athletes, like my cross country and track kids especially, and they're traditionally the same kids. So when I was at football, I would miss my cross country kids. And when I was at softball, I was missing my track kids. So I'm like, I need to pick one. And as much as my heart is obviously in softball, I had done it for a while. I wanted to hand it off to somebody that, give someone else a try. And so Mike Kring, who actually is the AD at Arlington, who's from Cooperstown and has connections from Morristown. So he obviously is related to the Kring family, and um, he is doing it with Tony. He was supposed to take over this year, so it's in good hands. But I have a hard time because the states were going to be in Long Island. My plan was to go and support my colleagues in Long Island that are friends of mine on the committee, just, especially since it would have been their first year there. But again, hopefully, next year I definitely will take a ride because it's not too far, obviously.
You got to tell us, because I've never gone down, even though Governor and Ogdensburg have made it in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You got to tell us about the football states at the Carrier Dome.
Oh yeah, it was neat, and that's the thing is, and it's funny. Like, so I this year, or excuse me, 2 years ago, I got to see Ogdensburg, and Matt obviously is on the committee with me. He's the Section 10 rep, Tesmer, and so that was really cool. Like, whenever there's a piece of home for me related to something sport, I get very excited. People could have no idea who I am, but I go right up to them and I'm like, oh, I'm from Messina. And I get so excited because it's a piece of home. And I'm equally as proud that my teams in the section are there, but it's hard not to be extremely proud that Section 10's there because that's home. So I got to watch Ogdensburg in the finals 2 years ago. And then obviously Governor, I got to see them play semifinals at Middletown against Valhalla at a Section 1. And Section 1 lost, obviously, and Governor continued. So it was always fun. Like, so there's always those hometown North Country names, that about, or there's some connection. And I'm watching the game, and there were different connections between Ogdensburg and Governor both years that I could identify with. But I'm looking in the crowd, I'm like, there's got to be someone up there I played against. There's got to be someone up there I know. I just don't know because it's in the dome. And again, so my married name is Dulé, so people don't know that. So it's fun though, but it is really cool to see that hometown, to me, no matter who it is in Section 10, come down in any sport and participate, because again, it's a sense of pride for me anyways.
Well, Pete and I, obviously, our hearts in basketball.
Yes.
And, we've done last 3 years in Binghamton. This year, we were so looking forward to going back to Glens Falls.
Yes.
I've been lucky enough to go to the hockey Final Four with my team just a few years back at the Harbor Center, and that was a great experience. And then last year, bumping into you again in one of my favorite places, Glens Falls, with the girls softball team. But I have never experienced football, and I love the city of Syracuse and going out in Syracuse. And part of the reason I don't make it down there, obviously, if my team were there, we'd go.
Right.
But I've started basketball season, and I'm practicing, and I'm not going to drive down. But that is on my plate someday. I would love to go down for the football weekend in Syracuse, because Syracuse is a great city. If you get down, I'm sure you've been down to Armory Square, and
maybe.
Yeah.
I think we all have.
Yeah. So the cool thing about it is, first of all, the committee, as you mentioned, Joey, when you work with basketball, that's a cool part of being an athletic administrator and being a chair, because not only are you helping your own section, but it's nice to meet everyone work together. And the people I work with football are just some really amazing people, and I get to see them obviously at states. But yeah, the venue is obviously very cool. This year we were scheduled to have football states the first weekend in December. We weren't going after Thanksgiving because of the change in start date rather. So that would have been interesting. And there's always the every other year thing. So this year Syracuse played Wake Forest, and it was an amazing game we got to see. The year before that, they were on the road, so we play back-to-back days. And the previous year to that, my first year, they played Boston College. So we got to catch a game, be around football all weekend, and it really is neat. Robert and his staff run a great show there, and Gary Vanderzee, our state chair, does a great job with everything, and things just run. Like, I get to be, unlike a home football game, I get to just watch. And I love that pretty much when sectionals are done, regional on, I'm there to support, but I get to watch football, which I love to see, the kids, participate in, and then go to that high level. It's amazing.
Well, Pete, we talk about tons of things that we need to do. That'll be one of them. We need to go down at some point. I've always wanted to and it's funny you say that. It would have been the first weekend in December this year. Is that what you said? Because of the changes? Yeah, and see, in my basketball team, Pete and I would be in Lake George that weekend for because we're in the basketball season by then. So that's been my hang up. But one of these years, I'm gonna get down there. So
I know that is.
Yeah, we got quite a few things on our bucket list from this show. I know that. A lot of
you're always
road traveling. Here. I know that. What's that? I'm sorry.
So you're always welcome here. Come to Section 1. You love basketball, I know. But again, so speaking of Rye, my new district, their boys basketball team was in it, and had an excellent year, and had won sectionals and won the next step, and was going on. So I can imagine what that must have felt like. And so, if you ever want to go for a travel weekend for basketball, we can hook you up with some teams here in Section 1, and you can get a nice taste. I mean, the big thing in Section 1 for basketball is the county center and the slam dunk. They offer a tournament there that's pretty big, that brings in private and public schools. But that's where our sectionals are currently held. They haven't always been held there recently, but that's a big thing. So there's a lot of love for different sports down here in different venues. So come on down anytime.
Oh, if Joey and I can break away, we'll bring the broadcast stuff with us, and we'll go down and do some games. But
perfect.
Any sport. Like Joey said, when December 1st comes around, we're running, straight through to March. So we'll see what this year brings. We're not going to talk about that again. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just need a location for coffee after the game.
Easy.
Yeah. Coffee.
Yeah, coffee, tea. Just to chat. Wind down.
Yes, of course. I can definitely make that happen.
Coffee and a lot of Baileys. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great.
All right, we got to give you a chance. You mentioned that you went there, but we got to give you a chance. You got to talk about your experiences at Ithaca, because we've had like 20 people from SUNY Cortland.
Yeah.
And they love talking about their place. So we got to give you your love. We had Lisa Brown on earlier. Ithaca grad.
Yes, that's right.
Pete's brother Paul is coming on next week in Ithaca grad. So go ahead. Tell us.
All right.
Tell me why I should tell my son to leave Cortland and go to Ithaca.
Well, it's all what you make of it. So for me, it wasn't like I'm like, oh, I want to go to Ithaca. It fell again. It was my right pathway. I had a great experience. I had a great coach who just retired, Deb Plazzi. Phenomenal person. But Ithaca in general is just a beautiful, beautiful area that I fell in love with on my visit. And I knew I wanted to be a phys ed teacher, to the point where originally on my recruiting visits, I went to Providence. That's where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Providence, and I wanted to play ice hockey, because all of the young ladies I looked up to played hockey at Providence. And at that time, they were definitely in the top 5. So I did my recruiting visit there. And that's when I realized, well, number one, they didn't have phys ed. And they had discussed doing something with Brown, which is, again, a great institution. But what kind of degree does that stand up against an institution that's known for phys ed? So that was a little struggle for me. I had to recheck because I had thrown those eggs in that basket that I wanted to go to Providence so badly. And I loved hockey. Like if there was a sport I could pick, I loved hockey. So at Providence, I would have had a chance to play hockey and softball. But again, thankfully, I chose my passion, which was what would be my profession, and did a few more visits. Did one at Northeastern UNH, and then with hockey, and then I went to UConn for softball, and that's when I realized right then and there, I don't want to play Division I anything. um, I was a kid literally that would pick the ball up in softball the day of the season. I'm the opposite of what I probably would tell people to do, but I just loved playing all the sports. I played so much and had such a positive social experience that I was one of those kids that just wanted to play. So when I went and did my visit to Ithaca, things fell into place. The dean of students at that time for health science and human performance, his name was Vic Mancini. He was a graduate of University of Rhode Island and played football there. So he put Providence on the board and put Ithaca and did the pros and cons. And it was glaring of where I should end up. And Deb Plazzi had seen me pitch and play at States and had recruited me. So when I called her to tell her I was looking to go there, it was, obviously just a great fit. I had, again, great friends, a great program. I was teaching as a freshman there out in the public school system. I knew right then and there, this is what I want to do. The coaching programs that were offered, I took coaching classes with Coach Butterfield, which is what the stadium's named after at Ithaca, which was a legend. I mean, I wasn't going to coach football, but here was a chance for me to learn from a man that was a legend. I took baseball coaching with Coach Valicente, who just retired this year as well, who was, again, another legend, just to learn from these people. And the things that I learned from my professors and teachers there just still to this day resonate with me. But the Ithaca Cortland thing, which is very interesting because a majority of my colleagues have go to Cortland, and I find they harass me way more than I harass them because I tease, we don't have to because we win. And so the Cortica job, we're doing pretty well right now with that. And I tease that on social media, I'll get blasted about being a bomber from the Red Dragons. And, like when we won this year, I don't even bother like harassing them because, we won, like we should. So, unfortunately, I was devastated when I found out I couldn't go to the game because as the football chair, I had to host 2 wild card games at Mayapack. Ironically, Auburn was one of them, and the Auburn coach was a Cortland grad who played football. So when I greeted him, I proceeded to take my jacket off and show him my Ithaca Bombers sweatshirt. So the whole Ithaca Cortland thing is just a lot of fun. I went out to dinner last night with a friend who played football at Cortland. And, there's not one conversation at some point that doesn't go to the Ithaca Cortland thing. So it's pretty cool to be a part of. And at the high school level, it's been fun to be a part of. At my previous job, Carmel, our big rival was Mayapack. And we would bring up to almost 4,000 people for a football game. My new district, Rye, their big rival, as I said, is Harrison. And I've been told that they can bring up to 8,000 people to a high school football game. So it's pretty, when you have those rivalries, it makes it fun. Like I think about in high school as well. I think of Ogdensburg as Messina's rival when I played in some sports, but it's funny. I played hockey with a lot of St. Lawrence Central girls who became great friends of mine who were like, we hated you. And I'm like, what do you mean you hated me? How could you hate me? You didn't even know me. You're from Messina. And I didn't really get it until I started teaching there. And I'll never forget, I could tell you the kid's name too. I was passing something out and I passed a piece of red construction paper out. And the kid said to me, I'm not taking this, Miss Reid. And I looked at him like, what do you mean you're not taking this? And they said to me, it's red. I go, what's wrong with red? Red Raiders? And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And so it's funny, like how deep those rivalries go from right from a high school right to the college level. But there's nothing better than being a Raider and a Bomber.
San River Messina, as far as hockey, of course,
Yeah.
our rival was always St. Lawrence, San River.
Yep.
However, it was just as big when Messina came into town, or we went into Messina. Both teams hated each other, but they packed a place and they couldn't wait to root for. I mean, but I totally understand about rivals, and it is nice. What's the word I'm looking for? The atmosphere is tremendous. It really is.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It is fun, definitely. It's definitely what high school sport and everything should be about. I mean, we tease all the time about even with the college piece with Ithaca and Cortland, but both schools obviously are, especially in my area, are phenomenal for physical education and athletics. So, you know, you can't go wrong, honestly. Like, ironically, I almost ended up in my master's at Cortland under Carl. Carl was still at Cortland. I did not know him. I applied for a grad assistantship and got it under Carl. Bill Dunning was at Brushton. There was the opening. I ended up taking the teaching job and having to tell Carl I wasn't coming to Cortland. And then that year I hear his name. I think it was at Salmon River. Yeah,
Mhm.
he was the athletic director of Salmon River that year. And I said, I know that name. That's the gentleman I was going to be working with. So I give him a call and, you know, here we are, gosh, 26 years later, 25, whatever it was, you know, and we're colleagues and great friends. And so again, another example, athletics pathways, just bringing people together.
Yeah, it's a small world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing, Sue. You know, we've done pushing 40 of these shows, and so many of the names, the same names that you've brought up, we've either interviewed or they get discussed by somebody else. You know,
That's great.
and you brought up Joe Javenville. I am so hopeful that Joe at some point says, "All right, I'll come on."
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, and
how cool was that? Like, I remember him as an athlete playing against him and what a great coach he was. And I could tell that as a student. But then I got a chance, I coached with him. When he was the principal and I was teaching, he coached. I got to coach with him. That was, you know, full circle, definitely for me. What a great man. So I hope he does. You know, I would love to watch that, definitely. There's so many people I miss dearly from home and experiences like that. So this is great that you're doing this. And it's fun to watch and have that little piece of home that you miss when you're far away. Well, I'm not that far, but 6 hours can seem like a lot
Yes, it
when
does.
you have a day or two just to get home and back.
well, and then this has been a cool hour for us, Sue, because this is a North Country connection, though, but that got out of the North Country, but still, you know, remembers her roots and passionate about and still able to have a connection because you still work in our state and
Yes.
you know, so it's awesome that you're still able to keep a connection with us up here in the North Country and be able to follow what's going on. So well, Sue, we can't thank you enough for coming on, and this was a great hour. It was a lot of fun, and here's hoping that things go smoothly for you when we're able to get back to work full time, and I can't wait to bump into Rye or drive down the Rye. Pete and I will make a road trip at some point.
Oh
We
yeah.
have so many road trips to make.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
So I'd love to. So just remember that coffee shop you're going to take us to.
I will make sure you will have a wonderful experience to the point where, you know, you want to come back.
Okay.
That's a
Well,
deal.
listen, take care, give everyone my best. And I'm hopeful, like we said, and I am hopeful our paths will cross much sooner than a year from now at late spring or beginning of the Central Committee when Carl's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. Hopefully it'll be much earlier than that.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Sue,
Take care. Thanks again for having me.
Thanks a lot for coming on the program. I learned so much this hour about you, not knowing you, and I feel now we all have a connection, especially for the North Country. So
Yes,
thanks for coming on.
absolutely.
That's
Of
going
course.
to be.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. That's going to be it for tonight for ESS Empire State Sports and the Wise Guy Sports Talk Show. Joy Rio and Pete Ghost on our special guest, Susan Reid. Have a good night, everybody, and stay safe.